edition of Center Stage Sweets. Today we are talking about the classic Broadway musical Man of La Mancha, and we are making pumpkin churros. So, for those of you that don't know, Man of La Mancha is based off of the novel Don Quixote by Miguel de Cervantes. And it tells the story of Alonso Quijana, who is an elderly man who is having kind of delusions of grandeur, shall we say. And he believes he's living in this fantasy world of knights and giants, and he goes off with his squire Sancho, and he calls himself Don Quixote de la Mancha, hence Man of La Mancha. And it follows him finding a young woman who is actually a prostitute, but he sees her as this beautiful lady and he calls her Dulcinea. The show itself is actually a play within a play that kind of goes off of the Spanish Inquisition, where Cervantes himself is put into a prison, and while he's there, he and the prisoners put on this story and he plays the role of Quixote. It's a wonderful musical. It's given us some of the most beautiful baritone ballads of all times, namely Dulcinea and The Impossible Dream. It's an absolutely lovely show. It's one act, it's pretty short. I highly recommend it if you get the chance to see it. Absolutely beautiful show. The reason we're making pumpkin churros today is because churros are actually a dessert that originated in Spain, which is where Man of La Mancha takes place. And because it's kind of whimsical and fantastical, I figured, let's amp this up. Let's be a little whimsical about it. And it's fall, so pumpkin spice it is. So let's get started. We're gonna start with a medium saucepan. Into it, we're gonna put 1.5 cups of water. And then we have 1/2 cup of pumpkin puree. It can be canned or homemade. I usually use the can just because it's easier and way more convenient. But if you like to make your own, go ahead, it'd be great. Let's see, and then we have a tablespoon of dark brown sugar, but you could use light brown sugar. Either one is fine. Just make sure it's brown sugar. And a teaspoon of vanilla extract. We're gonna take this, put it on the stove on about medium-high heat until it boils. So we'll see you back in a few minutes. Our mixture is boiling, so I've taken it off of the stove, and I have our dry ingredients here that I sifted together earlier. There is 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 heaped tablespoon of cinnamon, 2 heaped tablespoons of ginger, 1/4 teaspoon of freshly grated nutmeg, and 1/4 teaspoon of kosher salt. And we're just gonna add this right into our mixture that just came off the stove. And we're just gonna stir it in until it's combined. And it's gonna get really thick, which is what you want. All right, now you're gonna try to mix it as completely as you can. It may not mix 100% of the way, but that's okay because we still have to add eggs to it. Now, because this pot holds a lot of heat, I'm actually going to transfer the mixture over into the bowl that the dry ingredients were just in. The reason is either I would have to wait for this mixture to completely cool before starting to add my eggs, or I can speed up the process a little bit. But if you put the eggs straight into this hot pan, they will start to scramble rather than incorporate into the batter. So I'm gonna go ahead and switch bowls. You wanna make sure you scrape off everything that's at the bottom. This is when a non-stick pan is super, super helpful. We've let the mixture cool down a little bit, and now we're ready to add in our eggs. So we're gonna add them in one at a time until they are incorporated. Incorporated. So now we are going to fill up our piping bag and pipe these out. I've got a piping bag ready to go with a nice star tip in it. You want something that's gonna have some grooves because after we fry it, we're gonna coat it in a cinnamon sugar mixture, and having those little grooves will really help hold on to that cinnamon sugar post-frying. I filled our dough into a piping bag, and now we're gonna pipe it out onto a tray that has wax paper on it. The wax paper is gonna make it so that we can easily release these after they chill and before they go in the fryer. It'll also help them hold their beautiful shape that we'll get from this nice star tip. And this dough can be a little bit difficult to work with, so you're gonna actually need to give it a really good push out of the pastry bag. And you can make them as long or as short as you want. I like to go with about anywhere from 3 to 5 inches. That also has to do with what my dish that I'm gonna fry it in can hold. If you have something that you can fry super long ones and you really like really long churros, go for that. If you're using a smaller Dutch oven, go for the smaller ones. But it's all about what you wanna do and what's gonna make you happy. Our churros are all piped out and onto our trays. We're gonna pop them in the fridge for about 20 to 30 minutes just to chill and kind of solidify their shape before we put them in the oil. Speaking of the oil, I've got a Dutch oven on my stove filled about halfway with vegetable oil. We're gonna bring that up to 350 degrees. So if your stove takes a little bit longer, you're gonna wanna start to slowly bring that up while these are chilling. So into the fridge they go for 20 to 30 minutes. Our churros have chilled and our oil is just about up to 350 degrees. So a couple things about frying and frying safety before we get started. Number one, never leave the oil unattended. You don't want to come back, find it's overboiled and all of that stuff, and maybe a fire has started. So be really careful about that. Number two, when you are putting the items into the oil, I highly suggest either using one of these. It's called a spider strainer. All these holes let the oil come out of it. It's also great for scooping everything back up out of the fryer. Tongs also work, but you want long ones. Or if you don't have something like this, to put it in the fryer, if you're gonna put the churros in by hand, make sure you put them in so that they end away from you, so if there's any spatter, it doesn't come back and hit you. After they go into the fryer, we're gonna put them on a plate with a paper towel on it. This will help to absorb some of the excess oil, and then we're gonna toss it in a great cinnamon sugar mixture, which I'll talk about a little bit later. So our oil is up to 350, so we're gonna put in about 6 churros at a time. If you put in too many and you overcrowd the pan, you can actually lower the temperature of the oil. So we're gonna put them in, and for about 4 to 7 minutes, just keep an eye on them. When they turn golden brown, that's when they're done and ready to come out. Our churros have come out of the oven. I'm gonna mix them in a cinnamon sugar mixture. It's made of 1/4 cup granulated sugar, 2 tablespoons of brown sugar, you can use dark or light, and 1½ heaped teaspoons of cinnamon. And you just toss them around, maybe use your tongs to coat them, and then they're ready to eat. A little note about what to do with your oil afterwards. First of all, you can leave it on the stove, maybe move it to another burner, but let it come down to room temperature. So leave your candy thermometer in. Don't try to do anything with it while it is hot. Oil should never be dumped down at your kitchen sink. Best way to get rid of it is to maybe put it in like an old Chinese soup container or some other plastic Tupperware. If you have something that you're willing to get rid of, you can put it in there once it's cooled and toss it out, or you can actually reuse the oil. So if you know that you're gonna make something that's similarly flavored in the future, you can absolutely store that oil again, usually in the fridge. You can leave it on the counter too, but if you do wanna reuse it, just like I wouldn't go from something sweet and then fried chicken in it afterwards, or vice versa. So and there are some places that will take recycled oil too, so check online and see what you can do with it near you. Just don't put it down the sink. Our churros are all done and ready to eat. I highly suggest eating them while they are still warm. That's when they are their best. Some people like to do different dipping sauces with them. I melted a little dark chocolate, totally optional. Some people prefer dulce de leche. That's a traditional side dish with them. Some people do fruit. With these, you could probably even dip them in some pumpkin butter, and I bet that that would be really delicious as well. If you enjoyed today's video, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Center Stage Sweets. We're also now on Patreon, so if you want to help us continue to put these videos and these recipes out there, your support is always appreciated. And for more information, cooking tips, and recipes, visit us at centerstagesweets.com. Have a good one.